If someone borrowed money from you, wouldn't you expect them to pay you back? And wouldn't you ensure that everything is properly documented? Rotomac pen promoter Vikram Kataria faced the heat of central agencies after the Central Bureau of Investigations as well as the Enforcement Directorate registered separate cases against him and his company for allegedly swindling of billions from 7 banks from 2008. Rotomac Global Private Limited cheated a consortium of banks to the tune of $500 million by siphoning off loans sanctioned to the company for procurement of wheat and other goods for export. This is the second major financial scam to break out after the sensational 114 billion rupee fraud allegedly committed by billionaire jeweler designer Nirav Modi and his uncle Mehul Choksi, who is a promoter of the Gitanjali group of companies. Both fled the country before the Punjab National Bank realized the depth of the alleged crime. For those wondering, that's around $1.5 billion. And guess what? This fraud was also a family affair. Besides Kanpur-based Rotomac Global Private Limited, the CBI has also charged its chairman and managing director Vikram Kataria, his son and director Rahul Kataria, then AGM of Bank of Baroda SK, then senior manager of the bank Om Prakash, and then bank manager Shashi. This is the story of Vikram Kataria and Rotomac pens.
Let's get down to business.
So, who exactly is Vikram Kataria? He was born to businessman Mansuklal Mahadev Bhai Kataria, and their family is of the Baniya caste, or the occupational community of merchants and traders. Following in the footsteps of their father, Vikram launched his own company called Vikram Kataria Enterprises, while his brother, Deepak Kataria, has a popular Indian mouth freshener brand called Pan Parag. Vikram Kataria married his wife Sadhana and together, they have a son named Rahul. Together, they established Rotomac Global Private Limited, the Katharia's pen empire. The pen company was founded in the year 1992 in Kanpur, India, and they had one goal: provide consumers with high-quality yet budget-friendly ball pens. In line with this, they set up facilities for production and got to work in producing their products. In just a short time, Rotomac became an established ball pen brand, and it was well known across the country. It soon became one of the leading manufacturers and exporters of ball pens. Eventually, the brand became a household name in India for its pens and different kinds of stationery. Kataria himself was lauded for his entrepreneurial excellence and business savvy. He was a big shot in the Indian business industry, even receiving many awards for his contributions. Apart from Rotomac pens, Vikram Kataria was also given the position as head of Rotomac Exports Private Limited, Kataria Foods and Fragrances, Crown Alba Writing Instruments, Mohan Steels Limited, RFL Infrastructure Private Limited and Rave Entertainment Private Limited. On top of that, he has also ventured into real estate. His track record seems pretty impressive, but remember, this is a tale of a multi-million-dollar fraud. Let's take a closer look at how Vikram Kataria's scandal began and was, ultimately, uncovered. Vikram defrauded a total of 7 different banks across India. For the Bank of India, Kataria took out a total of 7 billion Indian rupees. For the Bank of Baroda, he took out 4 billion. He then went on to hit the Indian Overseas Bank, the Union Bank of India, and the Allahabad Bank, from which he took out 7 billion, 4 billion and 3 billion, respectively. The smallest amounts he took out were 489 million from the Bank of Maharashtra and 974 million Indian rupees from the Oriental Bank of Commerce. So, where did all of that money go? According to reports, Kataria had allegedly taken out the money as loans for his business. Being such a reputable businessman, the banks probably did not think to question his motives for loaning such huge amounts of money and were convinced that he would pay them back. However, Kataria did not really have any legitimate business transactions that he needed the money for. He had taken all those letters of credit to make use of interest rate differentials in other countries. In an article written for the Asian Age on the whole debacle, it was described that the Katarias worked on the principle of an interest rate differential in local and foreign currency in the guise of merchant trade without having any genuine business transactions and hence defaulted in meeting its payment obligation to banks by diverting and siphoning off all the funds. Allegedly, Vikram, his wife, and his son were all in on the scam, all being directors in Rotomac Global Private Limited. They diverted the funds from the loans for things other than they had claimed the money to be for. The Qataris were accused of being willful loan defaulters, or those who are not willing to pay back their debt obligations in spite of having the means to pay, and they were able to weave a very delicate web just to cover up their tracks. Instead of using the funds to pay buyers and suppliers, Qatari round-tripped the money to other Rotomac accounts, and he even circulated it into the accounts of sister companies. In one instance, the Bank of Baroda had given packing credit amounting to roughly 34 crore Indian rupees for an export order from Starcom Resources. The money for this was remitted to the Bargadia Brothers Private Limited's account, and it was found that Rotomac had received a large sum from Bargadia following this. The Bank of Baroda expressed its concern and complained this to the Central Bureau of Investigation, even requesting infer for Qatari for fears that he might leave the country. The CBI dug deep into Qatari's case and found that he had, indeed, taken out the massive loans under the guise of using the money for Rotomac pens when really, the money served other purposes. In an article written by Zafar Ishrad for Mint about Vikram Qatari's story, he claimed, Vikram Qatari finds himself accused of a bank loan default to the tune of thousands of crores of rupees. Locals and neighbors now can only watch in disbelief as Qatari's name figures in one of the biggest default cases, and that too at a time when the banking sector is facing the NPA crisis and the issue has taken the center stage in the political discourse. Another modus operandi was to use the loans, disbursed on proposals for the procurement of goods meant for exports, for undeclared purposes. In such cases, no export orders were executed by the company. It amounted to misappropriation, criminal breach of trust, and violation of the Foreign Exchange Management Act. The agency has also alleged that most suspect transactions of the company were with a limited number of buyers, sellers, sister concerns, and subsidiary companies. February 2018 was tough for the Indian government and banking industry as the month revealed a string of frauds across the nation. Altogether, it was estimated that the frauds and scams amounted to a whopping total of $2.5 billion. It wasn't only Vikram Qatari who was thrust under the spotlight. Jewelers Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi and Simphauli Sugars were exposed for fraud, too. However, it still stands to question why the banks issued such large sums of money without proper documentation or verification has taken place. Are you good at keeping your finances in check? What would you do if you suddenly discovered you were missing money? And no, I don't mean just regular old pocket change, I'm talking about your life savings mysteriously vanishing. And just how far would you go to make sure that no one finds out just how much you've lost? I'm talking about the WorldCom fraud of 2002, where an internal audit unit discovered that the company had over a whopping $3.8 billion worth of fraudulent balance sheet entries from the years 1999 to 2002. The video is up on your screen now, click away and see you in the next video.